Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to our webinar on the community impact of Built for Zero. My name is Laura Ellsworth, and I'm the Strategic Partnerships and Advocacy Manager for Council for the Homeless, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. My hope is that after this webinar, you will have an understanding of Built for Zero, how it works, why we're doing it, how it's going so far, and how it will ultimately end up helping vulnerable people with a complex set of needs that requires a complex set of solutions. First, just a bit of housekeeping as we get started, like always. The only people that you can see and hear are our hosts and panelists, so relax, you're not on camera. We will send out a recording of this webinar and post it on our website within the next week. And please help us with providing your feedback after the webinar by taking the short survey that will appear in your browser. We really do appreciate the feedback, and especially about what you'd like to know more about, and it does help us plan our future webinars. So tonight, we'll cover the what, how, and why of Built for Zero. And we have an incredible panel for you who will be sharing their thoughts, expertise, and experiences with Built for Zero. And as always, we will end our time together with a call to action. Thanks for being here with us. First, I thought we'd get started with a short video about Built for Zero.
At Council for the Homeless, partnerships have always been central to advancing our mission. When Council brings partners and their expertise to the table, collectively we reach shared, often complex goals. Together, we help people find safe and stable homes. We help people stay safe during extreme temperatures and dangerous air quality. We collect and distribute much needed supplies. We advocate at all levels of government for policies that support this work. We educate the community. Partnerships are key to bringing about community change. The newest collaboration to progress our mission is the Built for Zero initiative.
Built for Zero encourages communities to identify specific populations in order to begin their process of ending homelessness. And in Clark County, we began with the veteran by name list, and then we expanded it to the chronic population, and we created the chronic by name list. Council for the Homeless is a convener in a way that it's our priority to make sure that the partner agencies that are excited in ending homelessness in Clark County are able to have their voice at the table and be a part of the process.
Built for Zero takes collaboration to the next level by holding space for us to meet and pull our resources together. It opens dialogue between service providers so that we can collaborate with one another to better serve the people that we work with and overcome barriers to housing.
By taking that coordinated approach, you can see everything, you can hear from everyone, and you can respond faster.
I've been going to the Built for Zero meetings for some time now, and I've seen it in action, and I've seen people get housed through this dedication of meeting and working with people and checking in to make sure that people are moving through the process and to make connections to housing more accessible.
Getting us to a functional zero is the goal. We all work together as a unit to get it done, and Built for Zero has been very successful in doing that.
Council for the Homeless and the Built for Zero part, we really started becoming more plugged in with members of the community, and it's really helped us grow as people. Our resource went from just a little resource list, a couple things, to tons of resources.
A system that is successful in addressing homelessness and addressing housing instability quickly identifies those persons and immediately moves them into housing or other support services that that person wants to engage with and are appropriate for that person, whatever client-led decision that might be.
We try to make it the least complex as possible for the person who's in need, who's overwhelmed. By having a complex system to address a complex need, you still have to have that place where that complex system is able to synergize or convene, come together and work together in order to make that literal difference, in that person's life. And Built for Zero is doing that. It's really cool.
Built for Zero is used nationwide in many different communities and has helped almost 100 communities end homelessness in at least one population that they're working with.
Thank you to all the Built for Zero partners who are joining Council for the Homeless in this initiative. Our shared efforts show how we are stronger together and how a coordinated homeless system changes lives and makes home possible.
Okay, so thanks for watching that little video. We showed that at our annual luncheon last month, but it really does give a good overview of the partnerships that are involved with Built for Zero, which we will learn more about as we go tonight. Here we have some of our Built for Zero partners in Clark County. This group of service providers, funders, and public service agencies is integral in the work that gets done each and every month to help our community reach functional zero among those targeted by name list populations that we serve. So what exactly is Built for Zero? Well, it's a community of more than it's a movement of more than 98 communities working to measurably and equitably end homelessness and proving it's possible. Using data, these communities have changed how local homeless response systems work and the impact that they can achieve. Recently, our neighbors to the north and the south have also joined in. The goal is to achieve a milestone known as functional zero, an ongoing state where homelessness is continuously rare and brief. Together, they're proving that we can build a future where homelessness is rare overall and brief when it occurs. The methodology. In communities across America, hundreds of thousands of Americans have been housed over the years, and yet ending homelessness continues to remain elusive. The question became, what would it take to not simply count up to a magic number of housing placements, but how could we count down to zero people experiencing homelessness? It's possible to design systems that continuously drive reductions in homelessness, and it requires data-driven systems that account for measurably and equitably ending homelessness. 14 communities across the nation have functionally ended homelessness for their targeted by name list, and 44 communities have achieved a measurable reduction. So the Built for Zero process leads communities through 5 phases. The first is a problem-solving toolkit. Communities build an integrated command center team that can take responsibility for getting to zero. Locally, this team is area service providers from the different agencies that specialize in a variety of services for people experiencing homelessness. Those are the partners that you saw on the slide earlier. Then a by name list is developed. The by name list builds a comprehensive real-time list of single adults experiencing homelessness in our community. In Clark County, we started with a veteran by name list and then added the chronically homeless by name list. And a youth by name list is in the works. Partners meet 2 times a month to discuss the status of each person they work with on a by name basis and work together in a personalized way to meet the current needs of each individual and to notice trends and needs in the population overall. Then we work to reduce to zero. As communities learn the science of testing improvement ideas and rapid cycles to drive monthly reductions in homelessness, the data will trend down to functional zero. which is to say that the outflow of people experiencing homelessness is equal to or exceeds the inflow, or number of people falling into homelessness. Sustaining zero naturally comes next. Communities learn how to sustain functional zero for their target populations, and this is an ongoing process, AKA lather, rinse, repeat, but adjust as needed for certain individuals or populations if needed, as we learn from the data. But then we have zero for all. And so last but definitely not least, the aspirational goal of Built for Zero is to expand the focus to new target populations and drive towards ending all homelessness, such as Clark County's expansion into a youth by name list.
To ensure a lasting end to end homelessness, we must understand how to disrupt that inflow, preventing people from becoming homeless in the first place. By the time someone experiences homelessness, they are likely to have touched numerous other systems, which may include healthcare, housing systems, foster care, or the criminal legal system. The Built for Zero team is working to understand how systems like these can work together to stop people from becoming homeless in the first place. So with Built for Zero, we identify the people who are out there, and that's those numbers here in the middle that you see in these circles. So here you can see our local data from November of 2021, just last month. On the veteran by name list in green, you can see that the total number of people on the list is 80. On the inflow side, you can see that 20 individuals are on that list. 13 are newly identified, 0 people returned to homelessness from housing, and 7 people returned from being inactive. On the outflow side, you can see that 29 people are on the list. 4 people were housed and 25 are inactive. Melissa, do you want to jump in and tell us what inactive means?
Yeah, absolutely. So the total number of people on the by name list include folks that are currently accessing the system. So they could be accessing services anywhere in Clark County, from Council for the Homeless to one of our partner agencies to an agency that provides basic needs like clothing or food, that enters data into our homeless management information system. So that's how we collect the number of people that are on the list. If someone becomes inactive, that could mean a few things. If someone's inactive, it could mean that they're housed. It could mean that they've moved out of area and are no longer accessing services in Clark County. It could mean that they're still around, but just maybe they found someone that they can stay with temporarily, and ultimately, though, they are just not accessing services. The policy that our community has adopted is that if somebody has not accessed services in 90 days, anytime in a 90-day period, they are deemed inactive. And the reason why we have an inactive policy is because we've learned, and Built for Zero has also learned and reinforced, that a lot of resources and time and effort can be spent on finding people who don't actually need the help. They're in with somebody, they're staying somewhere else, they've moved out of area, they've become housed. And so this makes it so that we can focus on folks that are currently actively receiving services in our community. And if somebody that is inactive comes back or is now accessing services again, they would be identified in the inflow where they have returned from inactive, and they're right back where they were on the by name list as far as how long they've been homeless and what their situation is. And then they would be back in the active number of people on the list.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so then on the chronically homeless by name list in purple, you can see that there are 315 people on the list. And I do want to just stop and say, you know, for the chronically homeless population, just a reminder that these are the folks, you know, chronically homeless folks are the folks that you typically see the most, who are living on the streets. They live unsheltered, have been homeless for extended periods of time or repeatedly, and they have combined physically disabling conditions and mental health or substance use disorders. So you can see there are 315 people on this list, and on the inflow side, we have 63 people, 39 who've been newly identified thanks to our street outreach teams and other efforts. One person who has returned to homelessness from housing, and 23 who have returned from being inactive. And on the outflow side, we have 62 people, 5 people who have been housed and 57 who remain inactive. So as you can imagine, the needs of someone who's just been identified versus somebody who has returned from being inactive versus somebody else who's maybe been housed and yet falls back into homelessness are, you know, the solutions for those people, the needs are varied and unique. This is why knowing this data and discussing the needs of each individual person is so powerful. So on here, you can see on these graphs that the numbers from 2021, you can see in January on the chronic by name list that we were trending away from functional zero, noted by the red dots. And then for a time during spring and summer, we trended towards it, so that zero is here. Here's that 300 or so people that you saw in that center circle on the chronic by name list, and the 80 that you saw on the veteran by name list. So you can see, you know, we were trending in the red, then we started going green, approaching that zero. And then, you know, in September, October, we started going back up again. Same thing, similar pattern for the veteran by name list, although I will say that we were able to bend that curve back in the right direction faster than on the chronic list. I think that, you know, one of the reasons that you saw these numbers go back up is that our community added a lot of outreach teams during that time. So more people were identified on the inflow side. So even though right now that may look concerning, it's also good because it goes back to that quality real-time data collection. And finally, when we talk about Built for Zero tactics, we cannot exclude the impacts of racism on homelessness in our country. Racism and homelessness are inextricably linked, and Built for Zero provides a way to more equitably serve people. People of color, particularly Black and Native Americans, are disproportionately impacted at virtually every phase of the experience. Let's take a look at this short video.
A society can be judged by how it treats its most vulnerable members. Look around. As a nation, who does America allow to become homeless? And what does that say about us? Black and Native Americans are disproportionately impacted by homelessness. It is no accident. For generations, people of color have been denied access to everything at the heart of a just and fair society, including a place to call home. People burdened most by these inequities are more likely to be met by a punitive system instead of a social safety net. And when they do become homeless, the systems that respond to homelessness often do a better job of supporting people who are white than those who are not. Homelessness is a mirror. It reflects our nation's living history of racism. It also reflects the stark reality that these are life and death issues. But ending homelessness would reveal something else that is also true. We can create a future where a place to call home is within reach for all, and the impact of racism is truly a thing of the past. We can deliver on the promise of the United States as a just and equitable nation. Our decisions created this crisis. We have the power to create something new, something better, something just. Join us.
Okay, so now I'd like to introduce you to our incredible panel tonight. Beth Landry works for Clark County Community Services as the Homeless Crisis Response System Program Coordinator, overseeing contracts for programs providing homeless services with local, state, or federal funds. She transitioned into contract and system level work after working in direct services for over 10 years, with most of her direct service background being focused on residential programs such as shelter, inpatient treatment, providing behavioral health services, youth services, and homeless and domestic violence services. Beth has lived and worked in this region for the last 17 years. We also have Melissa Baker. Melissa Baker is a coordinated entry director with Council for the Homeless. She has over 7 years of experience working as a provider in homelessness services in Southwest Washington. And she began her career as a housing case manager in Cowlitz County and then transitioned to a housing coordinator at Council for the Homeless in 2016. Melissa has initiated the implementation of 2 by name lists in Clark County with the goal of ending homelessness for veterans and those who are chronically homeless. She has also led the effort to adapt the community's housing assessment tool to address the disparities of the vulnerability scores for those populations that have been historically marginalized. And we have Scott Thacker. Scott is a housing coordinator and veterans specialist with Council for the Homeless. He's worked with Council for 3 years, and he has experienced homelessness himself and utilizes that experience to best serve the unhoused community in Clark County. All right, so let's get started with our panel discussion. Beth, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. So what made Clark County decide to become aligned with this program, with the Built for Zero initiative? When did it start here?
Hey everyone, thanks Laura. So some of you may be familiar with our Clark County Homeless Action Plan. And within that Homeless Action Plan, we actually have 3 primary goals. The first goal is to identify, the second goal is to assist, and the third goal is to resolve. I'm going to make a shortened version of it, but essentially identifying and assisting people who identify themselves as being unhoused, lacking housing, whether that's unsheltered or other types of homelessness that they might be experiencing. Those 2 specific goals have set by name list ties within those 2 sets. So the by name list goals and the relation with supporting that at the county level is directly related to our Homeless Action Plan. The Homeless Action Plan counts the by name list and ultimately the work of Built for Zero as a nationally recognized best practice approach to achieving functional zero for multiple communities. So before this was implemented in the Homeless Action Plan, many communities across the nation were able to demonstrate by clearly identifying who's experiencing homelessness in your community and prioritizing them based on vulnerabilities is a guaranteed way that you can more rapidly address homelessness. You can more rapidly address a specific barrier or need of that person and help move that person into housing.
Awesome, thank you so much. And what can you tell us about the Homeless Crisis Response System focus and benefits of aligning with Built for Zero, and any general impacts countywide that you've witnessed?
Yeah, so the general goal for Clark County and through our Homeless Action Plan is to achieve functional zero, right? We want everyone to be housed. We want everyone to be housed safely in something that works for them, that they can afford and they can sustain. So functional zero, achieving that functional zero and effectively ending homelessness in our community is the ultimate goal. So this effort, again, just really aligns with that goal. We can't have the goal of doing something as amazing and huge as functional zero without the tools to get there. So that's just a clear alignment in that approach. I'd say for other system work, really, I mean, the proof is there. We've been doing these by name lists for some time now, and there's evidence that they're working. I've heard countless times outreach staff saying how they feel impacted by having this resource, by having a coordinated, planned efforts. People feel more heard, and just that everyone is aware that we're paying attention to who is experiencing homelessness, trying to serve the most vulnerable first, and doing that in an evidence-based practice. I mean, we have a responsibility, at least county funding wise, because we're all public funds that we're delivering back to the community in contracts. We have a responsibility both to people who are unhoused and people who are housed. The responsibility to people experiencing homelessness is to serve them quickly, serve them in a respectful way that works for them. And the responsibility to our housed partners and housed community members is to be aware of their feedback, saying, hearing people say, it is not okay that people live on the streets. It is not okay that people live in these conditions, and we have an accountability to do something about it. So this is a tool that helps us be responsive to both populations in an evidence-based, effective manner.
Great, thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna come back around to Beth at the end, but now I'm gonna move over to Melissa. So thanks for joining us tonight, Melissa. And I was wondering if you could tell the folks how do we use data to influence our operational decisions with regards to Build for Zero?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that data is definitely one of the larger parts of what impacts what we how we make decisions. And I think there's a couple good examples I can give you. One example is that it helps us identify when there's a new demographic group in our COC, our continuum of care, or our county that needs additional housing resources. One specific demographic is that we've seen in the past couple of years for the rising senior population that has been experiencing homelessness, and it helps us to mobilize and try to identify resources to serve those populations when there is a dramatic increase based on the data. Another example is we can find out primary languages and races and things that that our clients need to be served, which allows us to, just very simply, we can provide translated material in the languages of the people that live in Clark County. We know that we have to emphasize, or we know when we have a higher need to get multilingual staff, as another example. And then kind of more on a macro level, speaking more towards Build for Zero, I think that it allows us, looking at like that data inflow and outflow that Laura showed us previously, it really can help us identify how many beds, how many housing units, what do we need systemically to get to functional zero, to get everybody housed. And so I think that data is key, along with many other things, but data is key in helping us make decisions for ending homelessness.
Yeah, thank you for that. So as we saw, there are 5 phases of Built for Zero. And where would you say we are here in Clark County?
So I think that we have reached a quality point in our data according to Community Solutions, which implements Built for Zero. And so we've been working really hard over the past year to get to that quality data point. And what that means is that we can identify who is homeless in Clark County over at least 90% of the area. And we also, thanks to the support of the county and other funds, we have been able to increase our outreach significantly, which is helping us get even more coverage and identify everybody that's experiencing homelessness. So I think we have achieved that officially according to Built for Zero. The second part is reduction. And that is the long game. That's the hard part. That's the real hard work of everybody in our community. And that's where we're at right now. And so as you saw in that line graph, We've definitely been making progress over the past year. We've entered what is called a shift downward, and we'll definitely see increases and decreases as we go, as resources in our community shift. And so we're very solidly in that reducing homelessness stage, where we are working really hard now that we have a really good idea of who's out there to know by name everybody in their barriers and get them housed.
Yeah, thank you for that. So given we've been doing this for a while now, how long have we been participating in this initiative? Has it been?
So we started working with Community Solutions with Built for Zero late fall, early winter of 2020. We went through an initial phase of just like learning. We had to step back and learn, what is it that we need to be successful? What things do we need to put into place? Where are the gaps? Where are our strengths? And then in the beginning of 2021 is when we really were allowed to, we were able to put the rubber to the road, so to speak, and implement the tools and the best practices in our by name list coalitions. And that's been pretty fantastic. So we've been working, we just finished our full year of doing quarterly goals and improving how we're doing our coalitions and learning and just really working together as a community to know everybody that's out there as best as we can and to get people housed. So it's been the end of a really exciting year, and we're really looking forward to 2022 and getting so much better at this.
All right, awesome. So given that, how do you anticipate Built for Zero impacting our work as we head into 2022 and into the future?
I definitely see that the work we've been doing with the help for the Built for Zero movement is definitely going to impact how we end homelessness moving forward. I think that our community has had some really exciting growth and change in how we serve our neighbors that are homeless, especially in these past few years, and most especially in the past year. And Built for Zero is a real and integral part, excuse me. Our community recognizes that a cookie cutter system or process is not adequate for the unique needs of the people that live here, which is why we've been working hard within our system to do things like adapting our Clark County assessment tool to better reflect the vulnerabilities of those that live here. I think what Built for Zero is doing to move us forward is by, again, focusing on the uniqueness of each person and their circumstances that have influenced why they are where they are today. The way that we are doing this is by utilizing those by name list coalitions and the Built for Zero best practices to really, and I'm going to say this over and over again, the importance is to know each person, know their strengths, know the barriers that they've experienced that have led them here, walk alongside them to help break down those barriers and to get them stably housed. And Built for Zero is really empowering us in strengthening our processes so that we can reach functional zero.
That's great. Yeah, and for those of you who have attended our previous webinars, some of that may sound very familiar to you after we talked a lot about street outreach recently. So, you know, we talked about how you know, racism is inextricably linked with homelessness, and one critique of coordinated entry is that it's not racially equitable. How do you think that we're using Built for Zero to mitigate the barriers and inequities for the diverse racial dynamics that are presented by coordinated entry?
Absolutely. I think that what one of those videos really emphasizes around like the systemic barriers and how a lot of our systems are built on a lot of white-centric processes. And so coordinated entry it's a system that's necessary. It's absolutely necessary, and it's used as a tool nationwide to prioritize those that are most vulnerable for services first. And in our community, we're constantly trying to improve coordinated entry assessment processes, and Built for Zero is one of those improvements. Excuse me. I think there's a lot of tools that Built for Zero has been teaching us to use but I'm gonna, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna highlight two of them. It's one of them is by prioritizing quality and complete data for those that are experiencing homelessness in our community. And like I mentioned, we've effectively reached that point. And it's important because, and the reason why the quality data is important is because it makes it so that it's like our system has to figure out how to count everybody. Like we have to be able to identify every person experiencing homelessness, especially those that haven't previously been able to be counted due to the systemic barriers that they have previously and currently are experiencing. And so that's one way that it is helping us break down some of those processes. The second is that once we have folks identified, we really use, and Built for Zero helps teach us to use a much more holistic approach to help people end homelessness. And we do that by having those wraparound conversations with those coalitions of providers to really know each person by name, know their story, know their strengths, help identify like what the next steps are that they need to take in order that the most appropriate for them. And that approach is not a traditional approach for most homeless crisis response systems. But luckily, more and more communities are adopting it every day. And the important thing about that approach is I think the importance of the relationship building that is not super common, and how important it is to use that relationship building to break down barriers and racial inequities in our system.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I heard it said, in regards to, a lot of communities, including ours, we do the single point in time count, single night snapshot, which is very useful in determining trends and sort of comparing apples to apples data from year to year, if you will. But I heard it said that, while that provides a snapshot, homelessness requires a video. And I think that's, a good example of what Built for Zero is doing. So, all right, Scott, you're up. So I was wondering if you could talk about your experience within your role at Council for the Homeless and how the by name lists and Built for Zero have impacted the people that you serve. I know you work mainly with veterans experiencing homelessness. So if you can just, share some of your experiences working with these folks and how it's impacted their experience, and also even what you've observed in regards to their length of time experiencing homelessness.
My role here at Council is a housing coordinator, but with my experience homeless and being a vet, that's my passion, obviously. And with this Built for Zero, there's one client I can think of that was experiencing homelessness for over 10 years. He was a veteran. And he was very, very reluctant to even engage, thinking that, number one, he didn't deserve it. Number two, there's more people out there in need. But with the Built for Zero and the partnership that we have with our partner agencies, talking with him, letting them know that, there is people out there that care. There is people that with the resources to help. And within, like I said, it took a little bit to talk him into it. But once we finally did, he got housed within, I want to say, a month. So the Built for Zero and the partner agencies and just all the resources that are out there. And now he's, like I said, housed, doing well, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, I know I am just touched by the work that you do every day so much, and our community, and I thank you for the work that you do. If I if you could leave, what's the most important thing for the community to understand about people experiencing homelessness that you work with?
I guess the most important thing is to remember that even though they are homeless, they're humans, and just to be nice. I mean, I don't know any other thing. Just be nice. I mean, it's not, you know, everybody has their trials and tribulations to go through. The homeless population is just out there for people to see. So be nice. I mean, that's all I can say.
Thank you. Beth, how about you? If there was one, like basic takeaway or the most important thing that you would like our community to understand about the system, the homeless crisis response system, working to end homelessness, what would you say that is?
That's a tough one. So I think I would say I hope people, and maybe even through just this presentation and this evening hour, I hope people understand that we hear you, right? We understand that people are both asking for help and people are saying, help people in need. It's definitely heard, it's definitely recognized. It's an investment that the county is committed to. For example, the county requires every single outreach funded program to participate in the appropriate by name list based on the population they're serving. So if it's a veteran focused one or chronically homeless focused or youth focused, there's an appropriate paired by name list requirement in those contracts, along with several other things that systemically we're trying to, just move that needle forward every day, and be responsive to our community members, any community member, regardless of their housing status. I would say, for general population, I'd echo, be nice. It's people are going through something incredibly hard that most of us will have a hard time relating to. And for our system partners, ask them to be accountable. We have that responsibility to you, and we want to do the best. We want to use evidence-based practice. We want to use those public dollars in a responsible manner. The more funders that we can get to commit to those systemic practices and those evidence-based approaches, the better.
Thank you for that. All right, and Melissa, what would be the takeaway about coordinated entry that you would like to leave our community with?
I also agree it's a hard question, and I feel like I kind of had something, but listening to Scott and Beth, I've kind of switched gears midstream. So I think that something a lot of people don't maybe realize that what coordinated entry is that it's our job to make sure that the person or persons that, and it sounds kind of blunt here, but the person or persons that are the most likely to die while experiencing homelessness are being prioritized for services first. That's our job, and it's not easy. I think that part of it is also, like me driving down the road or me taking a walk, I see the homeless person right there in front of me. I hear our neighbors talk about people that are experiencing homelessness that are right there in front of them. And the purpose of coordinated entry is that we have to see everybody. We have to be able to prioritize vulnerability for everybody. Everybody is in front of us, and it's a hard perspective to hold. And so again, just be kind. Be kind to the folks that are going through an incredibly difficult situation right now. Be kind to the folks that are working really hard to serve those folks. Because I've heard countless stories. I've heard countless stories of people that have been my coworkers that are like, I just met with my previous boss who is here for services. You can't predict who that next person is that is going to be falling into a really hard time, and they're humans. And so I definitely echo Scott and Beth, and just, be kind to people I know so many wonderful people right now. I might have treated badly 5 years ago, and they're like my best friends today. You don't know who they're going to be the next day. So I think just the fact that coordinated entry, the purpose is to prioritize the most vulnerable first, and we have to see everybody. And we are very honored to be able to serve all these folks and our community members.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we have a little extra time, and I think I saw some questions in the chat about maybe the difference between chronically homeless and other types of homelessness. Does anyone want to jump in on that one and just sort of talk about the difference there?
I can go ahead and do that. So there's a couple different definitions. So there's like the official definition, and I think I saw it in the chat already, like HUD's definition of chronically homeless, which includes length of time homeless in a couple different ways and a disabling condition. So there's that chronically homeless definition. What we use in our by name lists we just limit it to the length of time, recognizing that because we're vulnerability based, people who have been out there for 15 years and maybe they don't meet that HUD definition because they've had 2 breaks that lasted however long, and now they're not technically chronically homeless, but they've been homeless for 15 years. So we simplified it for that purpose, and it's folks that have been homeless for a year or longer cumulatively. So it's very plain language. The folks that have been out there the longest, compared to maybe somebody who's only been homeless for a month or 2 and are able to more quickly self-resolve or be placed into housing program and get housed.
Yeah, thank you. And also, people who are chronically homeless have a physically disabling condition and co-occurring mental health or substance use disorder. And we've said this in previous webinars, but overall the chronically homeless population is about 20 to 25% of people experiencing homelessness in our county. So most people are not chronically homeless, and they are not even visibly homeless. They're not necessarily the people that you see when you think of a stereotype of somebody out on the streets. I saw a lot of questions come up around like the overall scope and data, and I want to just encourage you to go to our website, councilforthehomeless.org, annual system data. So feel free, a lot of that's interactive. You can sort of look around and look for yourself and sort of explore on there. I think Shavana just posted it in the chat. Thank you so much, Shavana. And it's good to have that kind of big picture understanding, and then thinking about, okay, how does Built for Zero sort of tie into that? And again, it's that targeted, specific, real-time by name list effort and data that we've been working towards. That's why we had that data for you tonight on those slides for even just for the month of November, which was only a week ago that it ended, and then of course for the year. So again, Built for Zero is one initiative. It's one tool in our tool belt in Clark County. It has resulted in some positive trends so far towards ending homelessness or reducing it, so that the outflow can meet the inflow, because we know we'll always have an inflow of people falling into homelessness. It's just a matter of making that as short as possible and getting people stable again. So so thank you so much to our panel tonight. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, and we'll move on with our evening. Let's see. Okay. My mouse is sensitive tonight, apparently. So as always, we leave with a call to action, right? And so you heard from our panelists and hopefully have a better understanding of key components of Built for Zero and its impacts for the people experiencing homelessness. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight to seek knowledge. Please do share it share what you learned, engage with elected officials about investments into low income and affordable housing, and about how to create places for people to be who don't have housing. This includes emergency shelters, and even, recently we have our camps in Vancouver through the city of Vancouver. I think, what has just become so clear is that everyone needs to be somewhere. Everyone will be somewhere, even people without homes, people with homes, everyone is going to be somewhere. We all live here. And so we as a community can help to encourage and support safe, humane places for people to be, so where they can be sheltered from the elements and have basic human needs met. I ask you all to think critically about homelessness, and critical thinking feels uncomfortable, and it should challenge what you thought you knew. It's not necessarily confirming what you thought you knew. It may challenge it. And if you haven't already, please do sign up for our e-news and our action alerts through the Council for the Homeless website. And as always, share the data, the facts, dispel myths, and reduce the stigma of homelessness. And as you heard tonight over and over, and I promise I did not prompt people to say that at all, be kind. Be kind to people on the streets and in camps, in cars, or in shelter. So thanks so much for attending tonight. Thank you to everyone who's spent this past year with us during these webinars. This was the 9th one that we have done this year, and we look forward to bringing them back in 2022. And I also want to just thank our incredible panel tonight, Melissa, Beth, and Scott, who so generously shared their expertise and experience. So I wish you all well. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening and a wonderful holiday season, and we'll look forward to seeing you in 2022. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks.